Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Warmley, joined as I am many weeks, but not every week in the offseason, of course, by Derek Brown and Andrew Erickson, both of Fantasy Pros fame. DBro, Erickson, I have been extremely sick this week. I will spare the gory details for our listeners. I have already shared them with you. Sorry about that. Getting you off on the right foot here on this show. But thank you guys for sort of bearing with me this week as we prep for the show. But I had to be healthy. I had to get ready because I really wanted to broadcast with you guys today. How are you guys doing?
I'm glad you're on the mend there, Worm. I guess my first question for you is, was it the 5 or the 10 pounds did you lose? It's always a nice crash diet when you get the GI bug and you're like, well, that's one way to go about
I lost 6 pounds in about 36 hours, which I was happy with that number. Erickson, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm enjoying this warm weather that we're having here in New England. I love the warm weather, so I'm doing great.
I've got a rare, cold, rainy day out here in Denver. So we got the reverse weather of what I would normally expect. It's been raining for like 2 straight days, which is 2 days more than you usually get of rain in a month out here. So it's been kind of gross. But we are happy. We are ready to be recording here today, talking a little draft or pass. The premise of the show today is essentially you guys are on the clock at ADP for these players we're going to run through. There's 12 players we're going to talk about. Are you going to draft or pass on them at ADP? We will jump right in because we want to get through all these players pretty quickly today. We will start with the wide receivers, and we will start with one of the most surprising rankings of all. I'll let Erickson kind of get into it himself without spoiling it. He is very high on this player, and that's Garrett Wilson, ECR right now, and recording this in the second week of May, so these are obviously subject to change as we get into July and August and September. But as of right now, ECR on Garrett Wilson is 23rd overall. The FFPC contest best ball ADP is 18th overall, but Erickson, you're even higher. Are you drafting or passing? And I'm assuming the answer is drafting, given how high you are on him.
Yes, I'm definitely going to be trying to draft as much Garrett Wilson as I can. I have him 9th overall. I think that you could take him in the first round. I don't think that that's outlandish, especially with the thirst for wide receivers. I'm looking at him compared to some of the other top 2 receivers. What's different about Garrett Wilson versus a second-year Justin Jefferson? I mean, what else did he have to do as a rookie to show us that, hey, this guy can take another major step forward with Aaron Rodgers now his quarterback? Last year, without Zach Wilson as his quarterback, Garrett Wilson averaged 17 fantasy points, 6 catches, 11 targets, and 82 receiving yards per game. Top 10 fantasy wide receiver numbers with scrubs at quarterback. And now he has a Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's super complicated. I want to be on Garrett Wilson. And you don't even have to draft him 9th overall. He's going to be ready in the second round, and you can just pick him.
Yeah, the case is pretty easy to make, especially after that Aaron Rodgers trade. And DBro, I know you're not quite feeling the same love for Wilson as Erickson is.
I mean, Erickson's got a giant gallon of the Aaron Rodgers cave sauce, man. He's drinking it up. He's got the jumbo straw. Like, I like Garrett Wilson. Like right now, I've got him at 29th overall, wide receiver 15. I'm not as stout on Erickson. I'll pass in some and a lot of different aspects on Garrett Wilson. And this is not a shade on the talent of the player. This comes down to what we've seen out of Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. And oh, by the way, Todd Downing's fumbling moronic self is also in New York. These are the people that are caretaking this Jets passing offense. And what have we seen when Rodgers and Hackett have been together before? It's been a slow offense. Yes, they pass a good bit, but my worry is, what is the ceiling of targets to put Garrett Wilson this high? I mean, even if you're looking at, okay, he garners targets the same realm that he was at last year when he was a full-time player, 26% target share, but he was only 31st in targets per route run. So if we're not getting the play volume, I like Wilson as like a mid-wide receiver 2. I just have a lot of problems trying to get him into that wide receiver 1 range.
DBro, can you remind me, not that I'm saying you're letting this sort of sway your ranking. I know Erickson was really high on Garrett Wilson. As a rookie, he was his number 1 receiver in that class. Where was he in the class for you? I can't remember.
He was top 2, top 3. Drake London was my number 1. I think I had Watson was my 2. Wilson was either my 3 or my 4. Trying to remember back.
Yep. I remember, Erickson has been very high on Garrett Wilson for quite a while. So it kind of is very easy to write that narrative too now that Aaron Rodgers is there. And I would tend to side with him. Yeah, very, very much on brand. Guys, how would you feel about making one of our fans a literal millionaire? Because I want to do just that by taking a moment to talk about our FFPC championship. Of course, we just talked about the best ball ADP for Garrett Wilson, 18th overall. We'll be giving those numbers throughout the show. But I want you guys to join FFPC's Fantasy Pros Championship for a chance to win $6 million in total prizes, including a $1 million grand prize. Free Fantasy Pros and Betting Pro subscriptions are up for grabs as well. Sign up now at fantasypros.com/championship and use promo code FANTASYPROS to save $25 on your entry. Enter before June 1st, which is just a few weeks away, and draft before June 15th, which is a little over a month away, to score an extra $35 early bird credit. In each 12-team league, you'll navigate a 12-week regular season with weekly waivers and lineup decisions, but no trades. The top 2 seeds and each league's playoff champ will advance to the championship round and compete for the $1 million prize during weeks 15 to 17. Don't miss out. Visit fantasypros.com/championship and use promo code FANTASYPROS for $25 off your entry. Oh, and happy drafting. Let's move on to our next wide receiver here, Deebo Samuel. Erickson, are you drafting or passing him at 39th overall in ECR?
I would be probably drafting Deebo Samuel in this range. I'm right kind of in range here with my ranking of him at 39th overall as well. So I could be going either way with Deebo. If I need a wide receiver when I'm drafting, I think it's fine. Look, he's someone that I'm not really overly bullish on or bearish on. I think that he's priced appropriately where he is. I don't want to come on the show and say, oh, I love Deebo, I hate Deebo. I'm pretty lukewarm on Deebo Samuel, and I see the appeal of him taking him in the 3rd or 4th round, where if Brock Purdy's the starter again, look, when Brock Purdy was under center and Deebo was healthy, it was Deebo Samuel that was first in target share. He was the most efficient from a yards per route run perspective, 14 fantasy points per game. His average depth of target was horrible, but that's because he's a yak monster. So if Brock Purdy is coming back where he's not pushing the ball downfield because he has this lingering elbow injury where it's like he's not really pushing the ball downfield, well, that probably means it's going to be a lot of underneath targets to Deebo Samuel. And we always see with this 49ers offense where if one guy goes down, every other guy just blows up in terms of production. So it's hard to see a scenario where Kittle, McCaffrey, Ayuk, and Deebo all hit ADP. Whoever stays healthy usually does return on their investment.
It tells you that I spend too much time talking to DBro because I always want to call him DBro Samuel on accident.
I'll take that.
FFPC best ball ADP on Samuel is it lower than ECR? It's 48th overall. But DBro, I think you're still probably passing on him there,
I'm
right?
burying Deebo Samuel. Pass. I don't want anything to do with it. I know Erickson doesn't want to come in here and say that he doesn't want anything to do with Deebo Samuel. I want nothing to do with Deebo Samuel. Like, he is being drafted in a lot of different aspects as a wide receiver too, and I don't understand that at all. Like, I get Erickson's points about, like, okay, he had the same target share, because I went back and looked at the splits without CMC, with CMC. Similar target share, hovering around 24%. Targets per route run was the same. My problem with Deebo, and not even equating like Brock Purdy and the arm issues, but again, another concern. You add in also the concern Erickson was talking about, the injury history. Deebo's got one of those. But my biggest problem with Deebo is, where's the high leverage usage? Like, where are the money targets that we want? He's not getting the looks deep downfield. The breakout season, he was averaging almost a deep target per game. That dropped to a half last year. His ADOT went to nothing, like Erickson was talking about, from 8.1 to 4.2. And in the 8 games we saw a full-time Christian McCaffrey, he got 4 red zone targets. So it's like, if he's not going to get these rushing attempts, if he's not getting deep targets, if he's not getting red zone looks, where the hell are the fantasy points coming from? Like, he's an empty PPR guy in a run-first offense with a quarterback with a hurt arm or trying to come back from it with a pop gun arm to begin with. Like, I'm not seeing the appeal here, guys. I feel like we're still living off of Deebo Samuel of 2021 instead of what Deebo Samuel was last year.
I don't know if I just missed you saying you have him at 75th overall, which is, I believe, the lowest you have of any running back or receiver that we have slated to talk about today.
Wide receiver 36.
Very low, just barely a wide receiver 3 for you.
Mm-hmm. Wait, where do you have Ayuk ranked?
I have got Ayuk. Where are you at, Brandon Ayuk? Wide receiver 25.
So why are you so much higher on Ayuk than Deebo? Like, do you think Ayuk's a better receiver than Deebo, or do you think Deebo's going to get hurt?
I think there's a lot of different things. Brandon Ayuk actually gets targets past 3 yards down the field. He gets deep targets. And yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk is a better wide receiver, hands down. Like, if you put Brandon Ayuk on any other team, I think we'd be talking about Brandon Ayuk as like a possible alpha, and like he would be top 15, top 12 type of wide receiver talent.
So then why didn't Ayuk have target Deebo when Purdy was under center last year then?
Because Purdy doesn't throw the ball deep, but
But
Purdy's going to check it down.
But you just said that that's good for Ayuk as he's used downfield, but you just said Purdy doesn't throw the ball downfield. So I don't know. I mean, I think that your gap is pretty big between Samuel and Ayuk, honestly.
I'll go with the guy that I think is more talented and is not going to get 5 targets for a grand total of -7 air yards a game.
But then Deebo like creates yards on his own. Like, he's one of the best yards after the catch receivers and better after the catch than Ayuk is. So I don't think you're giving enough credit to Samuel as a talent. Like, the dude's still super talented.
I like him. I hate the usage.
You think there are 35 receivers better than Deebo Samuel?
He was a wide receiver 3 last year, Erickson. He's wide receiver 28 in fantasy points per game. What was
Ayuk?
Just misspelling that?
What was Ayuk?
Higher than that?
Not by 13 or 15 spots.
If the 49ers, I just very quickly, if the 49ers end up, like, because of the injury lingers or because Trey Lance gets back and healthy and they were like, for whatever reason, Brock Purdy isn't under center at some point during the season in San Francisco, are you sort of changing your tune on that, DBro, and maybe liking Deebo a bit higher at that point?
No, I mean, I hate Deebo's role in this offense. Like, if he's not getting the rushing attempts, where are the opportunities for him to really score fantasy points? Because his role, even if you want to equate a lot of volume to it, which in a run-first offense, I don't know how we're getting there. But even in volume aspects, where are the touchdowns? Oh, is he going to run those in? Oh, wait, those are going to go to CMC and Elijah Mitchell. He's not going to get those. Or maybe they have like different trick packages for Trey Lance. Who the hell knows, man? It's Kyle Shanahan. The juice is going to sit here and snake him at the goal line.
Yeah. Let's move to our next receiver, Keenan Allen, ECR 43rd overall, FFPC best ball ADP 51st overall. DBro, I'll start with you here. Are you drafting or passing at 51st overall?
I am locking Keenan Allen in. I love him so much this year, and I understand people want to play recency bias with the injuries and things like that. Prior to last year, Keenan Allen was basically a lock to start at least 13 to 15 games. You're looking at like 4 to 5 seasons before last year. And, what did he do when he was healthy? Like, recency bias is really getting to people. And it's not even the good kind of recency bias, because the last time we saw Keenan Allen, he was amazing. So yes, I have him as wide receiver 11 right now, 19th overall. Do you have to draft him in the second round? No. But even if you're taking him at the top of the third, you're going to be ahead of consensus. Like, FFPC has him as 51st overall. Our ECR has him as 43rd. Did Keenan Allen just retire? I don't understand this, because last year when he was on the field, he was wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game. The mark at which he was producing over the full season would have put him behind like only Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown. He was top 10 in PFF receiving grade, top 20 in yards per route run, target share, basically everything you look at. And now Kellen Moore is coming to town. We're going to have a more fast-paced offense, more passing volume. What do we not like here? And if you're drafting Mike Williams ahead of Keenan Allen, just burn your money. Just go ahead, drop it in a trash can, and light it on fire, because then I really have no chance if you're doing that.
Erickson, are you drafting or passing on Keenan Allen?
I'm drafting him where he's going. I'm not going to draft him at wide receiver 11, but I'm fine where his ADP is. I have him 49th overall. His best ball ADP is 51st. The ECR ranking is 43rd. So, yeah, I think that he's a good value where he is going. Again, you mentioned some of the concerns going back from last year where he's 31 years old. And I guess my main concern is he's a volume-dependent receiver. Like, I know that he was more efficient last year, but that's because he played less games. Like, we have to like stop getting caught in the efficiency trap where it's like, oh, this guy was so efficient. It's like, yeah, because the sample size is smaller. So like, that's why he's more efficient, versus when you actually extrapolate it over a full season, it's not going to be as efficient. So yes, he was super productive in the games that he played last year, but I guarantee if he'd played a whole season, it was not going to be reflected in that specific category. You also look, Mike Williams is back. They added a guy in the first round, Quentin Johnston. Like, that matters. Like, he's going to play, and he's going to get targets in this offense some way, shape, or form. So anything that's going away from Keenan Allen's total target volume, I think is a downfall with his fantasy upside. So I view him more as in the wide receiver 2 range, but I think he's really safe. I think he offers a really secure floor. And I do like the addition of Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator.
Also, they did bring back Eckler, which was a question mark at one point in the offseason, and that's a running back who's going to catch a lot of passes too. So there are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, even if Keenan Allen is sort of the alpha in the offense. Let's move to Drake London, a guy that DBro has already professed his love for a little bit on the show already. FFPC best ball ADP is 58th overall, ECR 51st overall. DBro, I'll start with you again. Drafting or passing?
I'm drafting him. I mean, I'm firmly ahead of consensus, and I know maybe I'm just drinking the sauce, and I know all the Arthur Smith jokes are out there. I have him at 30th overall, wide receiver 16. A lot of this goes to, yes, I'm drafting a lot of wide receivers early. You're telling me PPR formats, and especially FFPC, I want guys that are going to earn a lot of targets. I mean, last year, even if we want to talk about the Arthur Smith offense, Drake London in his rookie season was 22nd in raw target volume. It's not like he got 80 targets last year. He was 5th in target share and 2nd in targets per route run. Like, basically, he was operating as an alpha. And I'm not a huge fan of Desmond Ridder, but over the last part of the season, weeks 13 through 18, and I get Erickson's probably going to bring up that Kyle Pitts was out. I understand that. Those are the only two guys you really have to worry about in this passing attack, though. He was wide receiver 20 over that stretch of weeks 13 through 18. And that was without any touchdowns. Zero touchdowns. If he got in the end zone once or twice, we're talking about Drake London producing as close to a wide receiver 1 in that span. He's got the talent and he earns targets to be an alpha. Now, I got questions about the passing volume, but am I going to pass up Drake London as a wide receiver 2? No way.
I also think that the offense has a chance to be more efficient now that it's not Mariota for a full season. Like, your mileage may vary on Desmond Ridder, but even if, let's say, Ridder is bad, they have Taylor Heineke there now. We saw in Washington, he was very happy to pepper his best receiver with targets when he was the guy actually in the game. He was throwing to Terry McLaurin. Not that he's, particularly great, but he was giving volume to those top guys. So I think you could see that play out with London. Theoretically, Erickson, I know you're lower on London than DBro is.
I mean, I'm just terrified of this passing game. Like, I don't believe in Desmond Ridder. Like, I went back and rewatched his last game, week 18, and he basically did nothing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting defense. It was literally only till the Buccaneers rested their starters because they didn't have anything to play for. And then you started seeing Ridder throw touchdowns to wide open players because defenders fell down. Like, I got major, like, if Ryan Tannehill was a quarterback here, I feel way better about Drake London. But, like, I can't just ignore the fact that, yeah, he's going to have a high target share in the offense that passes the least amount in the NFL. Like, is his target share going to be higher or lower than it was last year? It's like, it was really, really high last year. And now Kyle Pitts is coming back into the fold. Look, weeks 1 through 11 with Kyle Pitts, he had 2 top 24 finishes. He had a 27% target share and finished as a wide receiver 2 twice in all those games. He was 1.66 yards per route run, 38th. Like, I get the talent argument for Drake London, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, man, if I pass on a talented receiver, look, there's a lot of talented wide receivers now, especially young ones. I'd rather take my shots on someone that's going to more pass-heavy offense versus a guy like Drake London where it's like, yeah, he's super efficient, but it's like, hey, he only got 5-6 targets a game. It's like, is that going to beat me if I don't take him as a wide receiver 2? That's why I have him ranked where I have him at the high end of the wide receiver 2 territory, like wide receiver 24, 25 range. If I get him there, I feel better about it, but I can't take him in the mid wide receiver 2 range.
Yeah, to play devil's advocate against my own argument for London, you also can't ignore the fact that they added Bijan, who A, can be a threat in the passing game, and B, is somebody that Arthur Smith is going to want to give like 350 touches this year. So we might actually even see fewer passes this season out of this offense than we did last season. Let's move to our last receiver here. Chris Godwin, ADP and FFPC is 75th overall. ECR is higher than that, 54th overall. Erickson, what say you, draft or pass?
I'm drafting Chris Godwin. And I guess I kind of view Chris Godwin as my version of DBro's Keenan Allen, where he's kind of getting written off because, the quarterback play is going to be really bad. He was banged up last year. He was wide receiver 3 in terms of fantasy points when he was healthy from weeks 4 for the rest of the season. Now, the passing volume isn't going to be the same without Tom Brady in this offense, but he's another year removed from his ACL injury, which we were all concerned about just drafting him in general last year. It's like, how healthy is this guy going to be? And he got re-injured week 1. So adding that additional layer of context to the conversation for Chris Godwin. Look, I faded Metcalf, I faded Lockett all last year because of the quarterbacks. Oh, it's Geno, like, oh, I can't do it. And those guys end up being great values, especially Tyler Lockett. So that's how I kind of view Chris Godwin. It's like, you know what? Baker Mayfield, he's not great. No, he was bad last year. He was better on the Rams, which I think matters because the new offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dave Canales, is coming from the same offensive system that Sean McVay runs, that Shane Waldron runs. Baker Mayfield's going to be familiar with this system, and Chris Godwin is going to get peppered with targets from the slot from a team that's always going to be losing games. So I like Chris Godwin. I think that he's a screaming value, 75th overall. For Chris Godwin, who's been a top fantasy wide receiver for multiple seasons, another year removed from injury, yeah, I think the value is way too good to pass up on Chris Godwin, in my opinion. So that's why I have him 42nd overall as a top 20 receiver.
DBro, what do you think?
I want nothing to do with Chris Godwin, man. I want nothing to do with wide receivers tied to freaking Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield. I think, Erickson, I love you, man, but I think you're giving Baker a pass here. I mean, even with the Rams, like, yeah, he had the great game where, like, they came back and won the game. His yards per attempt in his other starts, in that start, 6.6, 5.3,
Who's he throwing to?
8.2.
Who's he throwing to? Is Cooper Kupp playing in those games? No.
Did you watch the Tampa Bay passing offense last year? How many weeks did we say, oh, this offense looks broken? Like,
and Chris Godwin was putting up numbers. What do you mean? He just didn't score any touchdowns.
But they were top 3 in pace and passing rate. Where do you think they'll be at this year? Are they going to even sniff close to that, Erickson?
I mean, I think they'd probably be around league average. I think that's a... Oh. I mean, I wouldn't say... You can't say they're going to pass as often as they did with Brady, of course, because they can't.
No, they
won't.
Not
physically possible, but it's not... You can't just say, oh, well, they're going to be 31st in pass attempts. That doesn't make a lot of sense either, based on the fact that they're not a good team. So I would say league average is probably appropriate. I mean, Baker Mayfield can throw the football. It's not like he's like unable to produce passers, and he's been good before at certain spots in his career. I don't think he's that great, but it's the price for Godwin. Like, so then what's the price for Godwin where you would actually draft him? Because you said you have him ranked 73rd. His best ball ADP is 75th. So according to your rankings, you would draft him if he's available at 75 overall, correct?
Yeah, I'll take some shots on him. But I mean, for the large part of it, like, I think that he's going to rise a little bit closer to we get to week 1 and stuff. I mean, I've got him as a low-end wide receiver 3.
Why would he rise? People hate Baker Mayfield. I mean, you just talked about it.
I don't think he's going to rise. Training camp video, Erickson. Takes one training camp video. Kyle Trask going down there and throwing a bomb.
The training camp videos only work for these day 3 rookies. Josh Downs. His ADP is skyrocketing for a slot receiver that's going to get 3 targets a game.
I feel like I'm having the same conversation that we did with Deebo. It's because Chris Godwin's usage last year was terrible. I mean, the similar things we talked about with Deebo, like, he was 96th, like barely a top 100 receiver in deep targets.
Well, how many deep targets does Keenan Allen get?
Keenan Allen doesn't have to worry about deep targets whenever they're going to possibly lead the league in passing attempts. Can we say that for Tampa Bay?
I mean, they're going to be in the middle range.
Well, the middle range.
He also has less competition. Less competition in Tampa.
All right. Yeah. I got to wrangle us in. We'll get to the running backs and quarterbacks next. But first, I want to thank everybody who's watching today's show on YouTube. For those only listening on the audio, we thank you too, of course. But you're missing out on half the fun. So check us out at youtube.com/fantasypros. And be sure to subscribe if you like our content, because it really does help us out. Plus, you can click the bell until it goes ding to get notified of all our latest podcasts, short videos, and live streams. Guys, let's move to the running backs here. We'll start with Travis Etienne, ECR 19th overall. FFPC ADP is 26th overall. Erickson, where are you at on Travis Etienne, drafting or passing?
So I'm going to be drafting Travis Etienne most of the time. I have him 25th overall, right where his best ball ADP is in the FFPC. Last year, when he was healthy, week 7 through 17, after they got rid of James Robinson, RB8 in points per game, 5th in carries inside the 10-yard line. He only scored 4 touchdowns besides 23 goal line carries. Touchdown regression's coming for Travis Etienne, which is why I think it's going to work out in his favor. And looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars offense last year, everybody stayed healthy. Everybody. Evan Ingram stayed healthy. Marvin Jones stayed healthy. Christian Kirk stayed healthy. It's not going to happen again. Someone's going to get hurt, and that's what you're going to see, a boost for Travis Etienne in the passing game as a result.
Quickly, Erickson, are you at all nervous about Tank Bigsby?
No. I don't think Tank Bigsby's that good. I think that I don't think he's that good. Nothing about his profile screamed out to me like, oh man, this guy, Oh man, he's really good. He was in the
So
SEC.
the third
He's
round
an
draft
Auburn running
capital
back.
didn't scream at you? That didn't put up a red flag and say, no, look at this.
Trent Baalke drafts running backs every single year.
Okay.
He's just another running back. Tyrion Davis-Price, he was a third-round pick last year. What did he do? Literally nothing.
All right,
Well.
DBro, draft or pass?
I'm passing on Travis Etienne. And the thing about it is, I don't hate the player, but I put stock in the fact of one of the numbers that you brought up, Erickson, you said is going to be touchdown regression. I put that as the fact of Travis Etienne was not great in his red zone role. Part of that could be that maybe he's just not a good goal line runner. That thus, you get Tank Bigsby in the house. Travis Etienne last year had a 65 qualifying running backs. He was 57th in red zone touchdown conversion rate. That is abysmal. And even if we want to say like, okay, well, Travis Etienne's a good pass catcher, right? Where was the passing volume for him? Like, I think Tank Bigsby is going to have a standalone role in this offense. I don't think that they just sewed a third round pick in to sit here and have him sitting on the depth chart when they already had JaMychal Hasty. They signed Dearness Johnson, who have both shown to be capable backups. You don't spend a third round pick on a guy that you're just going to park on the bench and keep the seat warm for Etienne. Etienne was not getting targets. So like, if he's not getting the early down work, if I'm worried about the red zone work, like I have him at RB21, but I've dropped him to 64th overall because there's running backs. If I'm going to take a guy in the top 2 to 3 rounds of a draft, I want to feel better about Travis Etienne than I do. Like, I look at Travis Etienne as being like him and Ken Walker are basically the Spider-Man gift, man. They both got running backs that were taken in the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft and airdropped into their backfields. Like,
round 2
Etienne,
is way different than round 3. Like, you cannot compare.
Is it? Is it really? Like,
Yes, it's way different. It is so much. Being taken 52nd overall, Zach Charbonnet is completely different than going in the third round as Tank Bigsby. It's not even close.
Second round is the new first round for running backs, and the third round is the new second round, man.
No,
We see guys pop out.
Third is the same as the fourth round. I would put Tank Bigsby in the same conversation as Roschon Johnson. Like, he's closer to that than Zach Charbonnet.
If you look at those hit rates over the last 15 years, yes, you're right. Over the last few years, I would sit here and push back against that. And Etienne, if he doesn't get the early down work, tell me this, Erickson. Are you feeling really good if he doesn't get the early down in the red zone work? If Tank eats into that, because it's a possibility, are you feeling good about the fact that Etienne ranked 36th in yards per route run and 31st in target share? He didn't even sniff an 8% target share last year.
I just explained why that happened, because all the guys were healthy. If your receivers are
so
all healthy,
we're projecting injuries here. Travis Etienne has to have an injury in the offense to pay off. Is that right?
What happened to Austin Eckler? How did he have so many catches last year? Oh, because his receivers got hurt on his team. It's literally what happened.
No, but this is the Jaguars.
Why do you think Ramondre caught so many passes last year? Because everybody got hurt on the team on offense.
Well, that entire team sucked. Okay, there's another part about that.
Let's move to a running back that I think we all agree is going too high, and that's Dalvin Cook. His ADP right now, 52nd overall, ECR 34th overall. Erickson, that's too high, right?
Yes, extremely too high. Dalvin Cook was horrible last year. Basically, looking at last rushing EPA, percentage of rushes for 0 negative yards among all ball carriers. Now, all signs are kind of pointing to him not being in Minnesota. Does he have a good landing spot? Miami's been kind of the spot that he's been talked about. Okay, that could be decent for him, but I think he's like a veteran running back where it's like, I think he's probably just going to be too expensive for me. Now, whichever one of these like dusty veteran running backs gets completely written off, like where he's going in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round, then that's the guy I'll probably end up drafting. But I don't think Dalvin Cook's going to be that guy, especially when he ends up going on a team where it's like, oh, like Dalvin Cook. Oh, here we go. 4th round Dalvin Cook. Like, no thanks.
DBro, you're a bit higher on Cook than Erickson is, but are you high enough to actually draft him, or are you still passing?
No, I'm passing. We're in perfect lockstep here. I mean, Dalvin Cook is coming off one of the worst statistical seasons, efficiency-wise, of his entire career. Second lowest breakaway percentage of his entire career. The lowest yards per route run of his entire career. No, I'm out on Dalvin Cook. No, thank you.
All right, I agree too. So make it unanimous. That's an easy one. Let's go to Dameon Pierce, ADP 51st overall, ECR 41st overall. DBro, are you drafting or passing?
Yep, I'm drafting him. I'm a little bit ahead of FFPC basketball ADP, where he's 51st. I've got him at 42nd overall, RB15. I mean, we're talking about a guy that, yes, like, if you're talking about the Texans offense overall, are we enamored in that? No. But we're talking about the offensive system, the guys coming over from San Francisco, what do they like to do? Run the damn ball. They're going to run the ball. And if you're telling me Dameon Pierce is going to get a boatload of volume, oh yeah, dude, sign me up for a player that was 9th in yards after contact per attempt, top 20 in basically everything else you look at. Oh, and guess what? First in PFF elusive rating? Yeah, I'm investing in Dameon Pierce.
Erickson, you're a bit lower. Are you passing?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on Dameon Pierce. I don't really feel the need to draft a 2-down grinder back on the Houston Texans, who are projected to have the second worst record in the NFL per the Super Bowl odds. So I just don't see a scenario where I skip out on Pierce as a round 4 draft pick and it burns me, because we don't know what his role in the passing game is going to be. We don't know how good this offense is going to be. And Dameon Pierce is volume dependent. Like, if he doesn't get the volume, then he's not going to be good. So I just don't think that's not appealing for me in the 4th round.
I think the defense is not going to be good. I think the offense is maybe getting a little underrated. I know there's always questions about like Ohio State quarterbacks, and I know they don't have like the best weapons, but they also don't have the worst weapons. There's some depth in the running back room. I think the offense actually could be better this year than people expect. Even though I still don't expect it to be certainly great or anything like that. I'm a big Stroud fan, of course, which I know DBro is as well. But I think there's some hope for that offense actually this year, if not for the team overall. Let's go to another running back, a rookie actually here, Jahmyr Gibbs. His ADP 32nd overall, ECR 45th overall. Rookie running backs, it's always fun, especially right when they go in the first round. You always want to buy into the hype right away. Obviously, the Lions got rid of DeAndre Swift. They did sign David Montgomery this year, but they clearly love Gibbs. You don't draft a guy that high if you're not all in on him. They said they would have drafted him at 6 if they had stayed there. I don't know if I believe that, but they say it, and they said it with some degree of conviction. Erickson, where are you at on Gibbs? Are you drafting or passing?
I'm going to be drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to be drafting him at the end of round 3. But I understand where we're having this conversation, and it could be, well, Gibbs is now a mid-round 2 pick. That could be something where, okay, I'm probably going to be out at that price. But right now, end of round 3, beginning of round 4, I do like the price there for Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, receiving upside, the draft capital that we talked about. Look, he's DeAndre Swift, except the Lions actually like him. And DeAndre Swift was super efficient and a guy that I was taking in the 2nd round last year. So it's like, I see the appeal with him. And as long as his ADP doesn't get out of control, where I'm taking him over established studs, I believe I have him like right on the cusp of RB1. I have him at the top of my 2nd tier of running backs. So it's like, as long as he doesn't get into that next tier, I'm really excited to take him in that round 3, round 4. But if he gets up to round 2, I'm probably going to be out at that price.
I was listening to another podcast on a different network, and I actually genuinely can't remember who it was at this point, but they're having a conversation about undersized running backs and how a lot of times it's not actually about whether or not they can hold up. It's about whether or not the coaching staff trusts them to hold up. So it's less about injury risk and more about actual usage. The fact that the Lions took Gibbs and, a little undersized, obviously, at 12th overall, they're going to use him. It would be complete and utter malpractice to not use him if you're going to spend that kind of draft capital on him. So that sort of mitigates that risk, in my eyes, at least with Gibbs. DBro, are you drafting or passing on him?
I'm going to be passing in a lot of aspects, and this is not because I hate Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm just behind consensus on him. I have him at 44th overall, RB17. Like, I look at Gibbs as an RB2, and this is not me hating Gibbs. And I know the Dynasty community thinks I hate Gibbs because, I like first-round wide receivers. Oh gosh, I hate wide receivers so much, and I hate running backs. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I like Gibbs, but my problem with Gibbs is David Montgomery is still going to be there. David Montgomery is still going to have a role in this offense. Like, DeAndre Swift had a red zone role, had a pass game role. That didn't stop Jamal Williams from gobbling up all kinds of volume inside the 10, inside the 5. And it is going to take a hit to Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdown upside. So it's not like I don't see Gibbs as operating as a workhorse or a bell cow in this offense. I just don't think that David Montgomery is going away. They value his role in this offense. And yes, that could vault him a little bit higher than what we saw for DeAndre Swift last year. But to vault him up to RB1 type of status or right at the cusp of it, I'm just a little bit lower on that.
Last running back we're going to talk about here, Joe Mixon, a guy that I am definitely passing on where he's going. ECR 61st overall, FFPC best ball ADP is 58th overall. I'm not taking him there. DBro, are you?
Hell no. I want no Joe Mixon. Pass all freaking day. I've got Joe Mixon at 63rd overall. I want to make sure throughout the offseason that I am behind consensus with Joe Mixon because he's terrible. Out of 45 running backs with at least 100 rushing attempts last year, This is where Mr. Joe Mixon finished. 39th in yards after contact per attempt, 36th in breakaway rate, 42nd in PFF elusive rating. I don't want the second coming of Ezekiel Elliott. No. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm out.
Erickson, DBro was pretty emphatic about that, and yet you actually have Mixon ranked even lower than he does.
Well, I actually moved Joe Mixon up a little bit. I actually have him 61st overall, so I'm pretty in line with ADP and with ECR on Joe Mixon overall, and it's because, look, I was under the impression he wasn't like going to be on the Bengals, but all indications are now that he is going to be on the Bengals, and like, what's different about his situation? Yeah, he's not that great of an efficient running back, but he's on one of the best offenses in the NFL, top 5 offense. He was still a top 10 running back last year, despite sucking, like DBro said. But it doesn't matter because he's going to score touchdowns. Like, who in this backfield is going to take away touches? They don't have Samaje Perine anymore. They have Chase Brown, who they drafted in the 5th round. They have Chris Evans, who they never want to give the ball to. So for me, it's like they can get out of his contract at the end of this year. They want to get rid of him. So it's like, why are they not just running him to the ground? And that's going to involve a lot of touchdowns. So at this price, I like it. Like, I'm trying to find who is this year's Josh Jacobs, where it's a guy that everybody's out on, quote unquote. That's like an older running back. It's like, oh, like I'm sick of this guy. But the price is just so low that it's like, okay, well, I'll just take Joe Mixon. Like, that was the case with Josh Jacobs. Like, well, he's just too cheap. And right now, Joe Mixon to me is at least that guy where if he stays this cheap, I will take him. But if he starts to get steamed up, I'll be hands off for the reasons that DBro laid out.
I don't think it'll be Jacobs. I think if you're the best case scenario you're looking at for Mixon this year, he's last year's Leonard Fournette.
Well,
like,
but that's
absolutely
good,
grotesquely terrible.
But that's,
he's going to live off a weighted opportunity. If he keeps it, like, I get it. For me, I can't press the button on a guy that, like, his talent level has diminished to the point where it's like, could they sign a Kareem Hunt? Hell, could they give the ball to Chase Brown like they did with Perine because Joe Mixon sucks?
Yeah, I rostered Josh Jacobs in 0 leagues last year, so that kind of scares me to draw that comparison of.
But like they see the parallels though, right?
Yeah,
like,
I follow what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, but it's like it's a totally market-driven maneuver where it's like whichever veteran running back the market says I don't want this guy, that's the guy I want. So that could be Mixon. Yeah. Is it Cook? Like, I don't know where their ADPs are going to end up at the end of the day when August rolls around. I think that's just something to keep in mind. Like, okay, who is the market totally out on which veteran running back that's a proven producer? Take that guy at discount.
I will just point out, because you say that, well, the fact that he's staying on the Bengals likely is why you would be a little bit higher on him. I mean, he was on the Bengals last year, and if you take away the one game where he finished with 53 fantasy points in half point PPR scoring, he did not go above 20 fantasy points in any other game. So he was in the teens a lot. It's not like he was absolutely atrocious. He was still scoring to a degree, but he wasn't this
Ryan,
great
don't
running
be that
back.
guy that takes away guys that doing good games. Don't be that guy.
I know. I'm just pointing out. A 53
when you
points
only
is a
have
clear
one good game,
outlier.
It's not that hard to do. I'll just say that when you only had one good game, it's not that.
He had other good games.
Do.
He just didn't have any great games outside of the one that everybody will remember. Yeah. That's my only point. But we have a couple of quarterbacks here we'll wrap up with. We'll start with Deshaun Watson. His ADP currently is 74th overall. ECR is actually even lower, 92nd overall. And DBro's even lower than that, so I assume you're passing.
Pass. No. Deshaun Watson was terrible last year, and could he rebound? Sure. The other side of that coin that nobody wants to look at is, could he still be terrible this year? Yeah, he absolutely could be. I mean, his numbers were so bad, they were like bottom of the league bad last year. His big time throw rate was the 4th worst out of all quarterbacks last year with at least 150 dropbacks. The only 3 that were worse than him, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, and yes, Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones didn't throw the ball down the field at all. Deshaun Watson was terrible, man. 10th highest turnover worthy play rate. I have a hard time, especially like where he's going in a lot of drafts, just pressing the button considering other quarterbacks that are going around him. Like, I'm out on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, we don't need to belabor the point. I have him in a Superflex Dynasty League. I have no idea what to do because you're right. You could write the narrative of he was super rusty last year. It had been forever since he played. He'll bounce back with a good offense around him. But you could also very easily write the narrative that he's maybe not cooked, but just never getting back to what we saw previously. And I really don't know what to do with him. Erickson, you're a bit higher. Are you drafting him at his current ADP?
Yeah, I'm drafting him above ADP. I have him 53rd overall because I think he's going to bounce back. Like, Look, this is something DBro had mentioned in one of our forums for the Scouting Academy. You don't forget to be an elite athlete. And I don't think Deshaun Watson forgot how to be an elite quarterback.
Good call. Good call.
Look, the context of his situation was like nothing we have ever seen at the quarterback position. Like, he took like multiple seasons off. He missed so much time, and they just drop him in Cleveland where the wind is blistering. Like, he doesn't have any chemistry with his receivers. Like, it's a whole different offense. Like, of course he was horrible. Like, that surprised literally nobody that he was horrible last year. But I say last year's tape, burn it. Burn it. I really don't think it matters. I don't think it holds any weight. And I think that Deshaun Watson is more likely to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year than finish outside the top 20.
Look at Erickson dunking on DBro all episode long and then quoting him to himself at the end. Well, we're all friends.
That was I gotta tip the cap to that. That was very nice, sir. Okay, thank you. That was very nice.
Last player we're going to talk about is Anthony Richardson, another rookie. Obviously, a really exciting guy for fantasy, given the style of play at quarterback. The type of just freak athlete that could really break the position in scoring. His FFPC best ball ADP, 104th overall, ECR 179th. That's definitely going to come up. I think that's probably being dragged down by just finding out his landing spot.
Asleep, Ryan. People are asleep at the wheel with Anthony Richardson. He can't throw. No, doesn't matter. No.
I mean, like, especially like now with Shane Steichen in Indy, he's got weapons there. Like, that's certainly going to go up. I would expect the ADP to go up as well. You guys are both higher, so I assume you're both drafting there. So I'll sort of twist the question to where are you drafting him specifically? Erickson, starting with you.
I have him 87th overall. I have him like right outside the QB1 territory, but I know I look at my rankings sometimes. I'm like, should I just like put him at like QB10, QB11? Because it's what we all know. Like, it's the rushing upside. Does it always work out? Not necessarily. Like, didn't work out with Trey Lance, didn't work out with Malik Willis, but like, this is the right process. Like, just chase these mobile quarterbacks that rush, and none of those other quarterbacks necessarily, I think, coming in as good as Anthony Richardson is, honestly. And situationally wise, like, his situation is so much better than every other rookie quarterback. Like, and you just mentioned it too, Shane Steichen. We've already seen this like play out. Like, just draft him; it's gonna work.
The only guy who did come in with a better situation was Lance, just because San Francisco is so incredible to, it's such an easy system to play quarterback in. But there was obviously injuries there, and he had even less experience than Anthony Richardson did in college, and quite frankly wasn't as good. Like, Richardson, people look at him as like, oh, he's a freak athlete who runs really well. He's probably really behind in the passing game. Sure, his passing is behind his rushing ability, but he is much further along than a guy like Malik Willis, like you mentioned. They're not even the same stratosphere. DBro, I know you're also high on Richardson.
QB10, baby. I got him at QB10. I'm drafting him in the 6th round. That's the same range where I took Jalen Hurts of yesteryear, and I look at it as the same damn bet. If Richardson starts all the games, and I'm sorry, Minshew lovers, get the hell out of my mentions. He's gonna start. They took him top 5. He's gonna play. If he plays,
they're saying the right thing.
Quarterback.
They're saying the right things about the fact that, like, he needs to learn by playing, and so it doesn't make sense to sit him and have him learn behind Minshew.
He's like, the only way you learn is by taking snaps. Richardson is playing. If he plays, he's a top 12 quarterback. Lock it in.
Yeah, I fully agree. And people talk about too, like, oh, it's a high ceiling, low floor. I don't know that the floor is that low. As long as they're willing to play him, the rushing is what gives him a high floor and also a high ceiling.
If they say his floor is low, it's bad process. His high, if you want to accurately describe it, Richardson, he's a high floor, low ceiling guy if you're shading him. If you're like me, you think he has top 5 upside if everything freaking hits, and his floor is QB1, top 12.
Yeah, I fully agree. Nice. I know we're all in lockstep.
The ceiling. Where is it? We don't know.
See, this is why you guys got to watch on YouTube, so you can see the hand gestures from DBro to really get the full scope of his fantasy analysis. That's going to wrap things up for us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please be sure to check out the FFPC Championship Contest with Fantasy Pros. Also, again, follow us on YouTube. Check out all of our cool Dynasty Draft Kit. Everything we've got on the site is awesome this time of year. We're getting back into it's fantasy season, best ball, Dynasty rookie drafts. Really exciting time of year as we get closer here to the stretches the summer. So for DBro and Erickson, I'll wrap things up. I'm Ryan Wormley. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.